The moment an Iranian missile slammed into Soroka hospital in Beersheba this morning. Inside, panic and chaos as doctors and patients fled to the bomb shelters. This is the largest medical facility in the south. The emergency room was operational at the time of the attack, but there were only minor injuries.
So Israel is now promising revenge after the Iranian missile that you saw talked about in that video did in fact hit one of the country's largest hospitals, as they acknowledged. Thankfully, and perhaps miraculously, considering how damaging the attack looked in that case, there were no fatalities as a result of it, although there were some injuries. In the larger conflict, though, there has been a number of deaths. Human rights groups estimate that 639 Iranians and 24 Israelis have been killed since Israel launched this war just about a week ago. And in the context of this particular hospital, one might wonder, why is that being targeted by Iran? Well, they say, or at least the official Iranian news agency says, that Iran was targeting the headquarters of the IDF's elite technological unit and an intelligence camp about a mile from the hospital, which Israel says is BS. They use a different term, but that's basically what they mean. And I mean, it was a mile away, which means that either it's BS or their aim is not particularly good. In any event, Israel is promising to punish not only Iran, but perhaps directly the leader for this. The Minister of Defense for Israel accused Iran of war crimes of the most serious kind and said that the Ayatollah individually should be held accountable for his crimes, saying the Prime Minister and I instructed the IDF to increase the intensity of the attacks against strategic targets in Iran and against government targets in Tehran in order to remove the threats against the state of Israel and undermine the regime of the Ayatollahs. So just bear in mind that while the narrative, the log line of the war is that it's supposed to stop the nuclear program of Iran from the very beginning, and now they're just stating it, it's attempting to undermine the regime and to murder the members of their government, to be very clear. Now, they are saying that attacking a hospital is a crime, is a war crime, which I agree on. And in this particular case, Benjamin Netanyahu appears to agree. Take a look.
I think it says everything about Israel and about Iran. Israel is fighting to remove the nuclear and missile threat aimed at our annihilation. We're targeting military sites. We're targeting nuclear sites. We're targeting missile sites. They're targeting a hospital. In this hospital, there are patients who are immobile. They can't even move. Right next to it is a children's ward, a baby's ward, infants. They target it.
I think striking a hospital is always wrong, and we have, perhaps I guess in comparison to some, the luxury here at the Young Turks to condemn it in all cases. Unfortunately, the gentleman that you just saw in that video doesn't do that. He says it tells you everything you need to know that they targeted a hospital. Well, then I ask him, does it tell you everything we need to know about Israel, that you have targeted hospitals in Gaza constantly over the past 2 years? In fact, according to the World Health Organization, there have been 697 attacks on healthcare services in Gaza since October 2023. I think it's terrible that Iran hit this one hospital with this one missile, and thank God nobody died. I think it's 697 times worse that Israel has repeatedly done it over and over and over again. And unfortunately, there were no miracles in those cases, and many people died. Many civilians died, many children, many infants died. And I didn't see a video like that from Netanyahu after each of those attacks, or ever, once, ever, about the fact that the hospitals and medical facilities had been targeted. As of right now, only 19 of Gaza's 36 hospitals remain operational, including one hospital providing basic care for the remaining patients. They're struggling under severe supply shortages, lack of health workers, many obviously have been murdered, persistent insecurity, and a surge of casualties, all while staff work in impossible conditions, often without water, without electricity. Of the 19 hospitals, 12 provide a variety of health services, while the rest are only able to provide basic emergency care. 94% of all hospitals in Gaza are damaged or destroyed. And this right here, if we bring up this graphic, this is a list of alleged IDF attacks on Gaza hospitals. That's from April to June of this year. Many, many months into the conflict, still many, many attacks on these hospitals. And to pull at your heartstrings, and I understand why it would as the father of a young child. And then Netanyahu in that video said that there's a ward for babies in that hospital, and so you should be even angrier at Iran, which you should. But unfortunately, again, very routine during this conflict for Israel to attack Gaza maternity wards. And as I said, I have a really young kid, so I kind of don't even want to read some of these graphics. But in November of 2023, the IDF forced staff out of a pediatric intensive care unit at the Al Nasser Children's Hospital to evacuate as they attacked northern Gaza. People went in with cameras 2 weeks later after the hospital was evacuated, and video appeared to show at least 3 of 5 dead infants with the bodies putrefying in close proximity to catheters and ventilators. One baby is seen decomposing while lying alone, appearing to still be connected to an oximeter with a green oxygen tank nearby as insects appear to crawl on its chest. Those particular babies were not killed by the bombardment, although many, many, many have been. They were totally voluntarily killed by the IDF soldiers forcing the doctors to leave them there. That was a totally optional thing that they chose to do. And no videos from Benjamin Netanyahu. No, this tells you everything you need to know about a government or its military.
Man, I'm trying super hard not to hold it against Israeli civilians who at this late juncture are 80% in favor of continuing to kill people in Gaza. Okay, but I'm a much better person than they are. So no, I will not ever hold it against civilians. And I hate that Iran hit this hospital. I think it's terrible. And I don't want any hospitals hit. I don't want any civilians killed. Now let's talk about the massive hypocrisy of not just Israel, but the American media. So I've heard in American media now dozens of times that 24 people have been killed in Israel, civilians. And again, that's a tragedy. And I don't say that glibly, it really is. And by the way, that's why they should be furious at their government for starting this war and thinking, so what? Probably a whole bunch of our citizens will die, but it helps Netanyahu's career, so we're gonna start this war. Okay, how many times have you heard that 263 Iranian civilians have been killed? Oh, but they're just Muslim lives. Oh my God, some kids were injured in this. Well, that's terrible. I don't want any kids getting injured. 17,000 kids have been killed in Gaza. 17,000. How often do you hear that on American news? You can, when an Israeli is victimized, that is headline news, gigantic news. Palestinian and Iranians killed, who cares? They're just Muslim, right? Do we really have to pretend to care? No, apparently you don't. You don't have to pretend to care at all. And this is not like, well, I mean, Iran had it coming. I know there's 263 of their civilians, men, women, and children were killed by Israel. But hey, they had it coming because they started, oh no, right, Israel started the war. But it doesn't matter. No sympathy for Muslims ever, ever, ever. I don't know if Jake Tapper one day is gonna write a book. Oh my God, we were all so incredibly bigoted against Muslims for our entire lives with every goddamn broadcast we ever did on cable news. Is that book coming, Jake? Okay, again, CBS News reports, Israel is saying this was an 800-pound bomb. That's a giant bomb to drop in the middle of a city. I condemn Iran for that. Israel's dropped countless 2,000-pound bombs. 1.5 times the size of the one that they dropped that Iran dropped once, and they're like, oh, this is an outrage. But when you say that and you say it is not an outrage to drop endless 2,000-pound bombs in the middle of Palestinian cities, what you're saying is, I don't care about Muslim lives at all. We're allowed to murder them as much as we like. Okay, now you say, hey, Cenk, murder's a strong word. You should reserve that only when Muslims do killings. Then it's murder and slaughter and terrorist and savage and dirty, right? When Israel does it, oh, it was such an accident. Was it? Because you just heard the stats that John read to you. 17 hospitals completely leveled by. So did they miss over and over and over and over? Because you can't just destroy a hospital with one bomb. They had to level those hospitals. They missed that many times. Are they the most incompetent military in the history of the world? They accidentally destroyed or damaged 94% of the hospitals in Gaza? Has there ever been a military that deeply incompetent? Of course not. No, whenever they want to, they could pick off any Iranian scientist, diplomat, politician, general. They can kill all of Hezbollah at once. They can kill them anywhere they like. But did we accidentally bomb and destroy all of your hospitals? But you should feel tremendous sympathy for me because one bomb got dropped on an Israeli hospital, and I do have sympathy for those people. But then they demand that we have no sympathy for the tens of thousands that they murdered, obviously on purpose. And now, after being in the middle of this genocide, they start a war with Iran, and then they say, but we've had some people injured, so we demand the world's tears, because we are the victims. Brothers and sisters, those civilians who got hit in the hospital are victims. And your heart should break for them because they're normal, regular people. They're not politicians, they're not the leaders of that country. But when the Israeli government leaders tell me to have concerns for them, that's preposterous. No, I have no sympathy for Netanyahu, Ben-Gvir, or Smotrich, who are genocidal maniacs. It's like saying, some German civilians got killed. You have to have sympathy for Goebbels and Hitler. And no, I don't at all, zero. Did I just compare them? Yes, I did. If you don't want to be compared to them, maybe you shouldn't do a genocide. Maybe you shouldn't start a war. I know. Israel, special rules. They're allowed to murder, genocide, attack, and we all have to bow our heads. No, I do not bow my head. Israel is 100% wrong for starting this war. 100%, and every Israeli civilian that gets killed is 100% the fault of Benjamin Netanyahu. Wait, if you say, that's not fair, you're blaming the victim. Every time somebody said, hey, Israel's killing tens of thousands of kids here and innocent civilians, they said, Hamas started it. It's all Hamas's fault. Okay, Israel started it. So that means it is definitely Netanyahu's fault for every Israeli civilian killed. It was a terrorist Netanyahu that is the root cause of those deaths. That's Israeli logic. That is Netanyahu logic. And I know a lot of people will say, yes, Cenk, but you're missing the central point. Israeli lives are super precious and valuable, as all human lives should be. But Muslim lives are useless and are expendable. And you could just murder their children and the American press will pretend you're the victim. Go ahead, Trey.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, how much I can even add to it. I agree with you guys about, taking the apparently, sadly controversial to some American stance that bombing hospitals is always bad and should not happen. That's also how I feel about it. But yes, immediate thing I saw when I saw the response, immediate thing I thought when I saw the response to it from Israel and what Netanyahu said was just like, I mean, my God, the audacity! I can't imagine the shameless audacity of that. It's like they say, Iran, they've crossed the line here. This is a war crime. And it's like, y'all are the most habitually line crossing people in the war crime game, and everybody knows it. Like, what are you talking about? It reminds me of like, and obviously this is on a much, much lower scale, but it's the type of thing like when over here, when like how a lot of conservatives would just, when they talk about the left, they'll just gleefully bandy about like homophobic slurs, or even racial slurs, and calls like cucks and libtards and all that. And then in response, you're like, screw you, fascist. And they're like, oh, wow, name calling? Really? Okay. Okay, if you want to take it there. It's like that type of thing just makes you pull your hair out, the hypocrisy of it all. But I mean, Cenk, I mean, you're right about everything you said about the assessment of it. It's like to some people, and they wouldn't say it this exact way, maybe, although some of them might, but it's like internally they're like, yeah, well, but this is worse because these are like, these are good people. Like, they're on the side of the West. This is Israel. These are good people that are being killed. And then when they do it, those people are, well, you know what I mean? They're just not, there's not as, and it's like, yes, they're poor, they're brown, they're Muslim, all that stuff that people just don't care about as much. But and it's a shame. But I just don't know how Israel feels like they have a leg to stand on in this situation. Because the other thing, as you pointed out, like also you started it. Like it wouldn't even have happened if you hadn't, made the initial attack in the first place. Which, by the way, on that note, when that happened, I was like, my God, do y'all not have enough on your plate already? Like I feel like you're not getting enough, your murder itch scratched enough or something. Because like I thought you guys were pretty busy. Now you're starting some stuff over here with these, but you do that, they respond, and then you cry about it. I don't have a lot of sympathy for them. I also have sympathy for the civilians, like you guys said, but Israel, the entity and its leadership and all that, it's like, I'm just not trying to hear it, really.
Yeah, okay. I can't help but add a couple of things. First of all, Trey, Greater Israel isn't going to build itself. Okay, they got to get busy, right? And so those maps are in their cabinet room. I mean, they're not hiding the fact that these are aggressive imperial wars meant to seize Arab land, and if they have to kill a whole bunch of Arabs and Persians to do it, well, Greater Israel's got to get built. I mean, that is such an important policy for America. Wait, what does America have to do with it? But no, we have to fund all of it. Okay, Iran says the Israeli intelligence building was behind the hospital. John pointed out it might have been like a mile behind the hospital. So on the other hand, Israel said, oh, we had to hit the first hospital they hit. They were like, we had to. They got tunnels underneath. So they brought in Trey Yingst from Fox News. And he looked and he's like, it's not underneath the hospital at all. It's all the way over there, right? They said, nope, counts. It counts, good enough. Human shields, so it was okay that we murdered them. It's Hamas's fault. Is Israel using human shields? I mean, that's not my logic, that's Israeli logic. They say if a military facility is anywhere near a hospital, you're allowed to murder everyone in the hospital. That's not my logic, I hate that logic. But they say I could destroy the whole hospital, I could kill everyone in it, I could leave babies to die in that hospital because, hey, there was a tunnel a whole, couple of blocks away from the hospital. It seems like the Iranian and Israeli logic match pretty well. Last piece of Israeli logic, they say, no, we didn't kill any of the 56,000 people in Gaza. Hamas did, why? Because they started the war. And if you start the war, then you're responsible for every single death, including on your side. Not my logic, that's Israel's logic. So since they 100% started this war, every death in Israel is on Netanyahu's head. And there's no question about that. They can't say, well, they can say, and they probably will say, well, yes, but you're right, but I get it. But on the other hand, these are Israeli lives, so they're super important, and those are Muslim lives. And we get to murder Muslims all we want. Anti-Semite, wait. You say you get to murder any Muslims you like, and then when we point out that fact, then you say, oh, it's anti-Semitic to point out that a government's leader has ordered the murder of over 50,000 Palestinians in Gaza and has destroyed all of their hospitals, has started a war and created a genocide. No. Netanyahu and everyone who supports him is deeply hateful, racist bigots. Okay, two can play at that game, and we're actually accurate as opposed to the Israeli supporters. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.